but I think that maybe some of people in our audience might have difficulties to, just know where to start. So
I guess so.
let's jump into an example, which would be a car rental business.
Yep.
And I would like you to imagine that we go and see a car rental company, and we want to focus on their main targeted value stream, which is a rental booking, of course.
Phew. So
what is it that you would do first?
Yeah, so when I go back to my, say, the old days, let's put it this way, I would organize a couple of workshops, of course, with the people that know their business. For that, I probably have to read myself into the topic of the rental. And then I would put a lot of paper on the wall with sticky notes, and we would plot what they call storyboards or story maps. And we have a lot of heated debates, of course, all going on. And then in the end, I make photos and somehow put it in an Excel sheet or whatever. But eventually, we create process models that we then hand over to IT. And yeah, they start then do their magic work, coding. And after a while, we hope to present the right solution. That is in short what I would do. Okay, so we of course know about these events, and that is what's usually done, and that's why in Papyrus Converse we have focused on providing a value stream designer that I will shortly show here now. So you have a tablet. You would go into this setting with all the people involved. Yes. You would have a tablet, and you would define, like you would do it on the walls usually, your stages of this value stream, how this value stream starts, that's the trigger, how your stages look, in this case that's a book rental stage, and what these goals would be for that stage. We can also then pan through the stages. That's at the end. It would look like that probably. And when you start discussing, you realize maybe there is an action missing that you have to add. So this is what you see here. You add an action. We define roles. That's, of course, a very important part of it. So who is engaged in this value stream? And then we can also define rules on these actions. So what is usually the next task that you would do when you're done with this value stream? It looks cool, honestly. But I get a feeling, a déjà vu feeling, I have to say. You know Trello?
Yes.
Because if I say Excel, of course, nowadays in the online world, I would use Trello and I would make columns and I put cards on it. So I really like it, but what does it do more or different than Trello?
Well, that's a very good question. Yes, I know Trello, and I also use it. Okay. But there is one very important part that you also have mentioned. What you would do after you would have written down this value stream somewhere, you would take this data and you would put it in some Excel sheets and hand it out to IT to understand what the hell is going on there. So what we do is that the definition that is already inside this value stream is automatically extracted into a business knowledge model. So you can see that we have automatically, without doing that, additionally found out which are the terms and the concepts that you are using while you're defining this and how they are connected.
Can I ask a question? Because in Trello, of course, I can write my tasks down, which is what we typically do. But I see here something like a data model or some properties, rental, which I can, of course, not do on Trello. Yes. How did you get there? Because I didn't see it before. I saw just that you created tasks, not data.
Well, for that, we use, of course, very sophisticated methods that we have available today, machine learning and natural language processing. And we build up an ontology, it's called, in the background that has these concepts and make these connections and also defines maybe some properties. A renter, for example, would have a first name and a last name, most probably.
Okay.
Yeah?
Interesting. So yeah, well, I'm not done with my questions. Sorry for that. Because I start to think, how can I use this? And the first thing that comes up to me, of course, is that I would like to reuse this. I think it's similar what Julia had, is when you are in the business of doing projects, you want to reuse your business knowledge because you want to speed up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's very
possible?
true. That's very true. We get these questions a lot. It's like, do I have to start from scratch?
Exactly.
Yeah, and nobody wants to do that, of course. So we have also deployed or enabled a template mechanism here. So you can, we of course have some knowledge as a company, being around for 33 years, having served multiple customers. So this knowledge from the solutions that we already have is already in there, and you will get that. But of course, it will not be your knowledge. Because the company, our rental business, has its own knowledge. Because we maybe call this customer renter, your organization might call him client, yeah? And we need to form this common language in order to work together.
This is the spot on, because this is the hardest thing when we do projects, is to actually speak the same business language. I'm not talking about programming languages. Really, do we mean the same when we say renter or customer or contract? Because often we think we do, but we don't. And we are too lazy to actually define all these things in detail. So after 5 days, again, we have the same discussion popping up.
Yeah.
So you're saying this is all part in this.
Exactly. So as you saw before, you can use this template. You can adapt it to your business language, to your value stream. So the business language is extracted automatically, and then you can store this business language as template, this business knowledge, I have to say, and reuse it for the next value stream, maybe when it's about reimbursing a renter for a damage that he had.
Okay. So, and how do I get to the application?
That's a good next point. So what is important to see, that's why I want to highlight it one more time, is that in this value stream definition that you just have seen here, we have multiple things already available that we can take over. Yeah. So it's not just an Excel sheet that has just plain data inside and you need a human to understand it.
It's actually already...
Okay. Sorry?
It's not just a glossary.
Exactly, exactly. So what we know now, because of what was defined in that value stream, we know who is engaging in that value stream because the roles were defined, right? We know what is the business knowledge and the business terminology that was used. We also know the rules that were defined and the policies maybe that are necessary to stick to when you go through this value stream. We also know the data that these people are engaging in, and you also know what needs to be executed. So you know which role needs to execute which action in order to fulfill this value stream. Yeah? And then,
you give it to the programmers, right?
Sorry?
Then you give it to the programmers.
Almost. So that's what the business user or the business analyst would do. He would just upload all of this data into our business Papyrus platform.
Normally my job would be done now.
That's the first part, right? Yeah. So once we have uploaded all of this, we have to go, of course, to the next step. Yeah. And that's done in our composer. So when you look here, you can see exactly that value stream that we just have designed on our iPad, and everything is already available. The stages, the goals, the actions, yeah, and also maybe the forms here. The forms are very rudimentary. We know which data is used, so we can, let's say, make a form. But most of the times, this form that you will use with that action in the player that I will show in a minute, so the end user, yeah, you maybe have to do some adjustments. You have to add some validation rules to the form fields. You have to add some fields that you might have forgotten. What you are seeing here, this is now our forms designer, where you can add fields that are not in your model yet. What is maybe for the techies interesting to understand that this is just not a form field. It actually also already is a field in your database. So we immediately create also the way to store the data by creating your actions and your forms.
So you're telling me now, because I know Papyrus really well, right? So I don't need to go to the class editor or create new classes and properties?
No. So this is all done automatically.
That's cool.
Yeah. Once we are happy with what we have defined, so let's assume this is a perfect value stream. Yeah. We think it's perfect. We can say, well, let's try it out. So before I go to define or to show you how easy it is to try it out, I mentioned earlier, right? You need to be, very quick in embracing change and analyzing failure.
It would be very quick, actually.
Yes. Yeah. We didn't only think about how we can speed up that process from the definition, the analysis with the business users, getting it into a kind of definition that usually IT does apart from the business users, and then somehow somebody builds an application from it, right? Yeah. What we also focused on is that the application or the solution that you will get, the business user, the end user, the solution that he will get an interface that is very easy to use, where he doesn't need any training on, and that is usable for any application or for any solution that you would need.
That sounds like marketing to me.
I will show you in a minute. Of course, there is a little bit of marketing involved,
yes, I mean,
but only because it's so good.
Okay.
So I will show in a second how quick it is to instantly test these definitions that we just did, and it's as easy to take it into production for somebody to use. We have also focused on a conversational UI, which means that it looks like a chat application, which gives you a log of events that have happened, and it's as easy to use as a chat application.
Yeah, before you went into the demo, maybe I'm too skeptical, but obviously an application is not simply just a task and a form, right? I mean, there is a lot. That's why we do business process flowcharts. That's just why I have make long list of requirements to tell them which field should have what value, etc.
Right.
So I didn't see that so fast here. Maybe I missed it, but I could not see it.
No, I think you're talking about the validation rules.
For example, in the forms, yes. So date should, if you have a birth date, it cannot be in the future. Very simple thing.
That's also one point. And if you think about the, let's say, other low-code, no-code applications that are out there, this is something you would do in, depending on what language they use, Python, Java, you name it. Yeah. And we also took away that complexity. So there is no coding involved at all. You can specify even these rules or these validations that you would need for the forms. You will see in a second when I do the demo for the player, in a natural language rule, which is immediately executable. And therefore, it also immediately transports the information that is needed to understand it, because it uses your business language. So this is this explicit guidance that we are talking about. The rules that we will show in a second as well are written and executed in the language that you are used to.
So you actually just have to process it. So you're saying me that the rules are written in natural language, the business rules.
Yes.
So that would mean that when I collected them, I can give them back to the business, have them validate themselves?
Yes, sure. They should immediately, as you're using their knowledge.
You're putting me out of work in a second. Okay.
They should immediately understand what they are for.
Well, let's see.
And also be able to change them.
Let's see.
So, last but not least, the UTA. We have heard it. Our dear agent has been around for quite a while.
Yes.
And also we, of course, have incorporated him also in our Papyrus Converse player, where he gives immediate suggestions. You will also see that in a second. So let's go and play. We have our composition here that we will simulate now. Okay. It's one button click away to starting your new value stream, which in this case is a case for our rental booking. So, of course, what do you need to do first? You need to fill in a start date and an end date. The end date shouldn't be before the start date. That's one of these validation rules in business language that we have put in. And then you fill out some other stuff that is needed in order to start your process.
I like the error message because it's at least not saying
Exactly.
I can understand
that is one part of this explicit guidance that I was mentioning before, is that as we have put everything into rules, explicit language, in explicit language, you can read why there is something you cannot do. So now we are in the player. You see this chat interface in the middle. You also see Theo, who is giving us suggestions about what to do next. And now, you know, I'm, let's say, a very experimental person, and I say, well, I don't care about guarantee rental. Let's just hand over the car. What do you think could be wrong with that?
First I was off because when you say Theo, I have to think about Mental Theo, which is a Dutch artist, but forget that. So Theo is suggesting you to do something and you say, I don't do it.
Yes, so Theo has learned that most of the times when you start it, you would try to get the customer to guarantee your rental through a credit card, for example.
And that's why he suggested, well, maybe that's what you should do next.
So, but it's suggestion based on, not on rules, because we didn't define any rule as well.
No, he's suggesting on part of what he has observed from other users. Our user-trained agent, right, is observing what other users did, and therefore he can suggest to you the best next action.
So it could be a rule, but an unwritten rule, kind of.
Kind of.
Okay.
So what I was asking before, so what is wrong with me just handing out the car?
I think it's clear, right? You, as a rental company, you would not give out a car without having even the slightest indication that someone would pay. So you have somehow to guarantee your rental, otherwise
exactly.
You never see your car back.
You see, we have tried it quickly and we have failed pretty fast. Of course, this is a very simplistic example. I would assume that in the real world you would have maybe thought of it before.
No.
But it doesn't matter. It's to showcase that how easy it is to actually go back and to make the change that you need to do.
I think that's excellent, because I tell you, if you do this analysis and you have talked to all the experts, I think they forget 80-90% of what they know when you start talking to them somehow. Only when you see the application, then they say, of course, what is all wrong.
Right.
But they never
so
tell
the
you
business
before.
user can test it immediately, and then we can go back to the value stream designer. The same thing can be done in the composer as well, and we can add that rule that was missing, saying that, okay, honestly, if you want to do the handover, you have to guarantee the rental first.
And this is this natural language thing processing.
Yes. The important part is, you maybe have seen it, that there are suggestions also for filling out the rule, and they also already come from the business knowledge that is available already, like I mentioned before. So let's jump in. We upload the new version, and then we go and we try it out. Oh, there we are. So back to the player, into my new case. You can see this is to showcase that we can also use the box in order to initiate commands. So I don't need to use the mouse if I don't want to. And now, whoops, what's that? That's the rule that I just have defined, saying, you know what? You might want to do that, but first you should do the guarantee rental.
Of course, I missed this button that you had before.
Exactly. So you are effectively, you can look at the form if you want to, but you are effectively guided into where you need to go. So what is very important for us also is that we don't want to employ these blocking rules. Yeah. So what we do is we focus on giving you the information as a business user to understand what you need to do in order to move forward.
What I really like about this part is, of course, the suggestion. I think it's very clever. But I like that you bring back the why, the business know-how, because I think this is always the problem, that people, the application says what you can or cannot do or determines, but people never understand why.
Correct.
And they all copy each other like lemmings, and we work this for 5-10 years. And if someone wants to change something, suddenly we have no arguments. Let's put it this way to do so. So these rules was exactly the rule that you put in the iPad thing.
Exactly. So you can see that it's a button click away of being executable, because we already have the knowledge. It's tied to the data, and we can immediately execute it. Okay. So let's just see what we would want the person to do next. Well, he is guided to, the person is me in this case, guaranteeing the rental. And then, you have completed the rule. Cool. And you maybe have seen it on the left top. You have also reached your first goal, which is guaranteeing the rental.
That's impressive.
So this is everything that we have to offer from Papyrus Converse. And of course, there is a lot more.
I can imagine that it is quite overwhelming for some, but it's for certainly for me, I need a closer look at it. I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
So as a wrap up, there is one thing that I still need to mention before we go into our wrap-up slide, which is that we are not only, I said it quickly at the beginning, very intro, that we are not only developing on an HTML client, but we also
provide mobile solutions. And important to see is that this player is not only available as in the desktop version, but instantly without you adding or having to develop another application for your mobile, you can instantly also access it on iPad, Android and iOS.
So you mean it's kind of Netflix? I just install Netflix and I can play any movie. And you're saying I install this player and I can play every business process on it.
That's a very good analogy, yes. Okay. So to sum it up again.
Thanks.
What we do with Papyrus Converse is that we focus on the strategic level of your value streams. We want to innovate work. We shorten the time to production with, bringing the knowledge of the business user into the application and your solution very quickly. You have also seen that we integrate the communication and the content. So we have this this interface where you can immediately write and also see the data that you need to work with. And of course, we focus on the customer experience where, or from a strategic level, you can think about how you should form your value streams in order to get them more customer-centric.